Good morning.
On behalf of the thousands of Oli 96.8 FM listeners, let me begin by thanking you for agreeing to share some precious moments with us. You have been an inspiration to mankind as a whole and to womankind in particular. Tell us, why did you choose the police force as your career?
Well, I guess it goes back to my kind of upbringing. It was very patriotic. It was very sensitive. It was very justice sensitive in a way. And I was looking forward to working with my government. And also I believed in the strength of persuasive power. I wanted to actually exercise persuasive power. And for me, policing was very powerful instrument of persuasive power and corrective power.
And what has been the guiding principles in both your career as well as your family life?
Guiding principles has been basically prioritization. Goes by needs, but every relationship for me has a space and a time and for itself. I don't muddle up situations. I go by need basis. I'm basically very time sensitive and also very focused and I provide according to the need.
Right. How much of an effect has your family had on you, Kiran?
Total. I'm a product of my family, totally. I'm a product of my family support. I'm a product of my family habits. My habits are exactly like my father. The sports habit of hard work and discipline is exactly like my mother's. I'm a total inheritor of a combination of my mother and my father. And then as I grew up in my career, my hard work or whatever more I could put in was because of the extensive support I got from my parents, mother most of all, father for my upbringing, and my husband and my in-laws. I'm a very strong product of family support.
Dr. Kiran, let's talk about the stint which made you very popular. Were you overwhelmed when you were given the task of managing the notorious Tihar jail back in 1994? And how on earth did you turn around the place in just 2 years?
You see, I went to the Tihar prison management after about 22 to 23 years of policing experience. And I'm glad I had that wonderful experience before I got the prison assignment. And in those 23 years of policing, I had used policing, I had delivered policing as a concept of welfare policing. It was always welfare oriented. It was always preventive policing. It was a lot corrective policing. Punitive policing was a last resort in all my career. I never knew that I would one day run a prison of 10,000 prisoners. But prior to the prison assignment, entire approach was always, how do I reach out welfare? How do I reach out larger security? How do I provide preventive policing? How do I prevent crimes before they happen? And when they happen, how do I work on correction so that the person does not go back to repeating crimes? So therefore, this is the kind of experience I had gone to the prison. And it was just a brilliant, fertile ground for me to continue with that correction, continue with the prevention, continue with the welfare concept. So I was actually groomed so subconsciously, so much by nature that I went to the right place at the right time.
You have introduced, I think, the concept of self-policing. Now, is that something new or has it existed before in some other form?
Well, when I introduced the concept of self-policing in my police training, when I headed the police training in the Delhi police, unfortunately, the practices which we did bring in did not exist. So they were first time, and I wish I had not been the first one to introduce, because without self-policing concept, you cannot be a good policeman or a woman. Because if you do not self-police, then who are you policing? How are you policing? Because you may need self-policing yourself. So therefore, when I introduced the concept of self-policing through meditation procedures, self-audit, self-reflection, ethical education, it improved the quality of the product or the production or reproduction of ideas, of attitudes, remarkably. But I can't imagine any training without the concept of self-policing. So, unfortunately, they had not existed earlier till we introduced them. But it came to me because that's what I personally practice and I personally believe in. And I thought that what had made me enjoy my policing was constant concept of self-policing. Because I didn't need to be told by my seniors what to do. I didn't need to go to a training institute to remain sensitive. I didn't need to be told by a vigilance department to stay honest or be polite or be kind to women or be kind to elders or be kind to or not use third degrees, to use compassion. It all came through the concept of self-policing. I just transferred something which I personally gained or learned from my habit, from my family.
It's very humble of you indeed, Dr. Kiran. Now, you've already spoken about your family, but I'd like to concentrate a little on your mother. You once said you lost your feeling of fear when you lost your mum. What did she mean to you, and how much of Kiran Bedi would be attributed to her?
I think I had a living divinity through her, because she was a symbol of selfless love. She was a symbol of total discipline and hard work. She was a real mother. It's your mother, which one would love to say, Mama, my mother. I think that is the feeling I had about her, because she was a symbol of selfless love and constant love, and love till the last breath of her life. She was a woman who would continue to, who believed in doing her duty as much as her body could deliver. So she was an indefatigable energy. She was a very determined woman, strongly courageous. I think that's the time when she breathed her last. Since I loved her the most, there was nobody else after, in the sense that who could beat her. So I became fearless of losing anything more after that.
Inspiring indeed. Now, tell us a little bit more about Navjyoti and India Vision International, the two NGOs that you founded.
You see, one of the organizations, the first one, Navjyoti, was born as a concept of belief in crime prevention, treating the root and branch of crime. So, Navjyoti was born as a drug abuse treatment program in 1986-87, so many years ago, almost now go back to nearly 20 years, nearing 22 decades of organizational work. So I started drug abuse treatment program as a crime prevention measure. Started to rehabilitate women, to wean them away from drug trafficking. Took children who were abusing drugs and even peddling drugs, putting them into school. So I started to work with crime prevention because I knew it was later on going to be otherwise crime detection. So this is how Navjyoti was born. We reached out to drug addicts for treatment. We reached out to schooling for children. We reached out to vocational training centers for women. Now, as I was moving up, people demanded institutionalization of this work. And that is how Navjyoti was born and incorporated in 1988. Since then, it continued and to flourish and continued to grow. It went on adding more programs, but cornerstone of the program, the genesis, was crime prevention and rehabilitation and treatment of root and branch. But India Vision Foundation was born in 1994 when I was awarded the Ramon Magsaysay Award for government service. And at that time, I was Inspector General of Prisons. India Vision, and it brought an award of $50,000. Every award, I think for me, means added responsibility and a clear message that do not stop, carry on, you're duty bound to move on. So India Vision Foundation, I could have named it in my name or the name of my mother, father, but we named it as India Vision. For me, it was my award to my country, which enabled me to be whatever I was. I named it as India Vision Foundation because that name is the largest for me. And that started to focus on prison reforms, crime prevention, and particularly education of prisoners' children, rehabilitation of vocational training for women in prison. Since then, now it's nearing 11 years, program has gone on non-stop.
Kiran, you have inspired so many lives. Who are those who have inspired you?
I look for inspiration. The books have been inspiration. Individuals who were strongly courageous and ethical were my inspiration. Well, my parents were my inspiration to begin with. But then, if I would go by the individuals, then it was Mahatma Gandhi who was my inspiration. Mother Teresa was my inspiration. Golda Meir was my inspiration. Vivekananda was my inspiration. Even Margaret Thatcher, a strong woman who would take decisions, right or wrong, would be my inspiration. Women and men who were strong, courageous, ethical, self-sacrificing, giving, compassionate, or spiritual, they were all my inspiration. And books, my teachers, my situations, my home, my parents, my mother-in-law, equally sacrificing and spiritual, was my inspiration.
You must have faced failures in life too. Can you name any and also tell us how you overcame that failure?
I don't consider any moment, any situation of failure. Believe me, if I would lose a tennis match, and you know I was a tennis player, I was an Asian tennis champion and a national tennis champion.
Right.
For me, it was never a defeat. It was a lesson to be learned to do it better next time. So, in fact, the word failure never existed in our family. This is the one word which was never used in the family, saying, this, you failed here. It was just said, here's a lesson to be learned and do better. So for me, every situation which needs to be bettered is not a failure, but a lesson to be learned.
Beautiful. And you have achieved so much in your lifetime. What would you consider as your biggest achievement or success?
I think if I would have to say it because you're asking me, then it would mean a whole new concepts of policing, the concept of welfare policing, the concept of welfare and restorative justice in the prisons, that a belief and a confirmed belief that if you work on crime prevention, you don't have to waste time on detection as much. And then if you work on reformative justice and restorative justice, then further you will have a better quality of crime control. And that if you involve mind, body, environment and spirituality, you can bring in greater reforms in the prison system. You can use persuasive power, and a police officer could be the greatest welfare officer in the society because he or she could work on root and branch alongside. Policing is not just a punitive power. Policing actually is a corrective power. It is the largest welfare and security power a police officer can exercise. I do believe that probably these were the new concepts. And participative policing. Most of my policing came or my prison management came through 3C model. It was collective, it was corrective and community based. My policing has been these 3 C's. Collective, corrective and community based. This is the model in fact I've given through my book. It's always possible in the end saying this is my contribution to the criminal justice system.
A great contribution indeed. Kiran, if there's one trait that has characterized your 55 years of existence, what would that be?
I think I'm very organized. I'm very disciplined. I'm basically by nature very hardworking. I value time hell of a lot. I value every moment. I don't let a moment slip by. If I'm meditating, then I am meditating. If I'm exercising, then I am exercising. If I'm reading, then I am. I'm pretty focused by nature and I'm very organized. I'm very systematic in my life and my living. And I'm multitasking by nature, hugely. There's a huge habit of multitasking right from my childhood. And I think that's how I would think that's what my life has been the way. And I've loved it so far. And most of all, I'm grateful for divine good health. Because without good health, it may have been so difficult to do what I did. So with gratitude for good health and the good environment I got, I could achieve all these multitasking through disciplined living.
Kiran, just one last question. This program, Vanam Vasapadume, aims to inspire people by telling them that if this personality has done it, so can you. Now, as you turn 56, what would you want to tell our listeners who may be looking for a spark of motivation?
Well, I would say that anybody who's listening, you got your 5 senses intact. You got your 5 senses which nature gifts you as you're born. I think you're already gifted. You've already gifted. You got it all. And braver are those who got any one sense less and then do it despite that. But if you're born with these gifts of nature, you have it all. So therefore, God has already given you, your nature has already given you as you're born as a human being. What you do with these 5 senses is your gift to the world or your gift back to nature. And you use those gifts to optimum utilization and right use of your ethical use of the time which one gets 24 hours per day. This is how I value 24 hours of my day. And I think that's the gift I return as gratitude back to society, back to the community, and to my parents who expected this all from me.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kiran, and all the best for your future endeavors.
Thank you for this happy birthday gift.
Vanam Vasapadume.